Hello everyone. I'm Connie Graf from Chaos to Peace, and I'm here with Linda, like every Friday for the last few weeks. Hi Linda, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm enjoying our Friday chats, so this is fun.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I just found us, so we're actually really live. Yay.
Okay. So, that's always nice to know.
Yeah, so today's topic is getting organized. So what can Linda tell me about getting organized? Because I have the reputation to be organized.
Well, and it's interesting because, as I used to be a feng shui consultant and, with background in feng shui. And so I used to talk about clutter and disorganization a lot from the energy perspective and how it impacts us and, how we, what it does to our energy and what it is energetically. And so I used to talk about that quite a lot, and I've done a lot of workshops and things on it. And it always made me laugh because people always assumed that I never had an issue with clutter then, my house was like pristine or something, which is not true at all. Like everybody else, I have struggled with clutter. My biggest challenge, I think, for me has always been paper clutter and holding on to too much paper, or because I do so many different things like teaching this or studying that and have all the papers from that, and I would never want to throw them away, I suppose, and so I would hang on to things, and I will get piles. I always had piles on my desk, and from time to time I would go through and sort out those piles. And so yeah, I mean, I struggle just like everybody else, but it was just a couple of months ago, I suddenly got the urge to purge, and I just
the urge to purge. I love that.
I purged my office of just about everything, and I went from all these files and folders, and I have done so many courses that I had all the materials from all those courses. I got rid of the lot. I have maybe 10 file folders now with things in that I actually use on a daily basis. I have to tell you, it felt so good to do that. I felt like I'd released a lot of weight, just energetic weight. And so yes, I mean, I have struggled with it just like everybody else, but I think sometimes there comes a point, like it did for me, where you just realize you're holding on to things. Why? Because those things I had, I rarely ever looked at them. But I'd invested them. I'd invested time, and I'd invested money, and there were things I'd done, and energy. And I suppose it didn't even occur to me that I didn't need them. I don't know. Anyway, so that's my clutter and disorganization story.
Yeah, so I'm, even though I appear like organized to everybody, and I literally am organized, but I always say, like, we all have clutter and we all have areas where we're disorganized. Some people have more disorganization in their life and others have less, but I think we wouldn't be human if we had none. So my thing is more like, what I'm trying to do is balancing it out. So I have sometimes more the issue that I become too rigid, that I'm kind of like trying to be too organized. And this is, for example, something when you were talking about papers. I'm not necessarily collecting papers, but since we have digital files, I can collect digital files. But they're all organized. So that is then my excuse, it's like, well, they don't hurt anybody and they're all organized. And yes, that is good. But how many of these files do I really need? And how many of these files do I really look at on a daily basis? Like, for example, if I'm on a webinar, I often take screenshots and then I save them somewhere. And then months later, I come across and, what is this? And I've never looked at it. So that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, we all have clutter somewhere, and it's definitely clutter if I'm not using it. And we're holding on to this. Well, we may need it one day. Like you said, it never occurred to you that you don't need it, or that you can just let it go. And I have this too. And even if it's organized, so I'm like, okay, at least that's my excuse for myself. At least it's organized.
But it's organized.
Yeah, so if I would need it, I would actually find it. And this is where
Right.
I often say to my clients too, if you have stuff and at least it's organized and you find it when you need it, okay, that's already one step forward. But still, you may still hold on to a lot of things that are actually very heavy, that you don't need, that you don't use. And it's that
Mm.
scarcity mindset where we think like, oh, if we let this go, we for sure need tomorrow the information. But we are
Right.
in a world now where, like, especially for papers, I always
Mm.
say, like, whatever you have on a paper, unless it is like a birth certificate, a marriage certificate, or anything like legally
Right.
important, anything else
You
can
can find
just
it.
go because it's probably outdated anyways. Like, and oh,
Right.
taxes. Okay, so you have to be careful with taxes for a certain
Yes, you can't.
period
Yeah.
of years.
Yeah.
And then there is a small amount of very important papers that you have to keepsake. And what I often feel is like people who have too many papers, they're not putting enough attention on these important papers because they have so many papers. So actually, when they feel very unsafe to let all these papers go, they're actually in a very unsafe place because they don't put enough attention on the important papers. So
Right.
this is how our mind can trick us.
Yeah. Well, and the key to it is to realize that it's not just, I would say this is not just about the stuff. So it's not just about the papers or
Yeah.
the, or whatever it is, whatever it is you have. It's the energy and the emotion behind it.
Mhm.
Um, and when you start to look at it from that perspective, it takes on a whole new meaning. You know, so often, especially as a feng shui practitioner, I worked with people. Very often, people have gone through divorce, for example, and you know, these women would be, you know, in their home, and they'd feel very often proud of the fact that they fought. And they got the furniture, they kept the bedroom furniture, they kept the, you know, the expensive dinner service that they got for their wedding present. And what they didn't realize was that actually by holding on to that, they were keeping the energy, especially if it was a very difficult relationship, ended up getting very nasty and it was a difficult divorce. They are holding on to that energy, and they were keeping that energy around them, which stopped them from being able to move forward, perhaps into a new relationship or move on with their lives. And you know, you stay stuck in that when you're surrounding yourself with that kind of energy. And so once people started realizing that, and I would teach them that, then very often they'd say, oh, of course I don't want that energy around me, you know, I want to let it go. And it's just, we don't think of it that way. So once you start to look at things in terms of energy and the reason why you're holding on to it and what your emotional attachment is to it, like with me, with all my course materials, I've done many courses, and even though it could have been years ago and I had not referred to those materials once, you know, I'd made the investment of time, the investment of money. This was good information that I might need someday, you know, and but if I hadn't looked at it in 10 years, is it likely that I was going to need it now?
Probably
You know,
not.
so you have to, it takes, I think, getting really honest with yourself
Yeah.
and really examining that energy and the emotion behind what you're holding on to.
Yeah, and it goes kind of against nature. So I always compare it a little, and people are surprised. But I just actually had a podcast interview. I had a guest on, and we talked about that too. I compare it with nature and the digestion. Like we're new information comes in or food comes in, and then our body starts to do its job and processes it. It's the same with information as well. No, it comes in, it processes it, and then the body keeps in the food thing, the body keeps what it needs and lets go of the waste. And if we're constipated, that's not a good thing. We feel it, like, and she just confirmed, like, gut health is very important. So like whatever we're holding on in the body, which constipation is basically clutter in the body, that we don't let go. It's the same with the things in our life. We have it embodied. The mind, our aura, our whatever, our being, our soul took what we needed from these things, from these experiences, and then the rest we can let go. And especially in stuff like that, where we did courses or something, that was probably perfect the time we did it, but we move on in life. So we're not at the same place anymore. And even if we need some information again, it will come to us if we really need it.
Right.
Especially in today's world where we have with social media, with the internet, we are information galore. We don't have to worry that it doesn't come or that we can't find it. We can find it if we really need it again. So
yeah, you always can. And one of the things is we tend to fill our space. Whatever space we have, we tend to fill it. I remember when my husband and I first moved to the US and we bought our first house, we were living in St. Louis, and we had a basement in this house, and we were thinking, oh, this is wonderful, but the basement, so it's a wonderful place to store things, so it just became very easy. Like, you don't know what to do with this, you're not using it anymore, but we don't want to throw it away. Oh, let's just put it in the basement. And so we lived in that house for 9 years. And then when we came to move house, oh my gosh, I realized then, all the things that we put in the basement, that just because it was there. And it was quite shocking to me, actually, to realize how much stuff we'd stored in there that we didn't want it, we didn't need it anymore, we didn't use it anymore, but we just put it there just because we had the space, and
yeah.
I've been fortunate enough to move several times. And I say fortunate because when you move, it forces you to really examine everything, because you have to take everything and pack it up and put it away. And good question to ask yourself is, do you really want to be carrying this with you? Because very often I'd pack up something, take it with me to the next house, and then as I'm unpacking it, sometimes I think, why did I bring this? I don't really need this. So then I'd be able to let it go again. So I think it's just part of the process of life that we accumulate things. And so just like anything else, we need to, on a regular basis, just examine what we have, see if it's still current, see what we can let go of. I love doing that. I make it a regular thing now to just go through and look at things, find things to let go of. And it feels really good to do that.
Yeah, that's why I always say a few minutes a day keeps the chaos away, because you kind of keep your life up to date. You keep yourself up to date, and that is actually what gives you then the feeling of being organized, not in a rigid way, but so I'm all about, for me, being organized means making life easier for me,
Yes.
It's like the chaos around me, or if I too much stuff, or if everything is unorganized, that I feels very heavy and stressful and all that to me. So that's another reason why I say decluttering is self-love, because I always try to make things easy for me. I often say I'm also, that sounds crazy, but I'm too lazy to be not organized, because it needs so much energy. It needs so much, like, you have to find things because you can't find, because they're somewhere and you don't know where. So to me, it's how can I make my life easier? And the life is easier if you don't have to go and search for things, or if you don't have to get overwhelmed with all the energies from the chaos around you that drains you. And then your life is not easy because you have this energy over your head. I always say, like, you have it kind of here or on your shoulders. And when people let things go, which you just confirmed, that feels so much lighter because you're letting these things go. And so this is why I'm saying decluttering is self-love, because you're looking after yourself. You're making sure that your life is not unnecessarily hard. We have already a lot of things that may not go the way we want in our life, and we may not have as much control over it, but we have control to make life easier for us. And this is where I'm always encouraging people, just think what would be easier, what would feel easier for you.
Well, people often say that after they've done some spring cleanings, this is the time when people are often thinking about that they do some spring cleaning and they feel so much more energized, they feel so much better. And it literally is because you're letting go of energy that you are holding on to, because it's not just stuff, it has an impact on your physical body. It is so closely connected to you energetically and emotionally. So as you let go of that stuff, you are freeing yourself, ridding yourself of that energy and emotion that is no longer a fit for you. And I always used to say to people, if you're ready for change in your life and you really seriously want to change something and you don't know where to start getting rid of stuff. Just start moving things, just getting things out of your environment. And that starts the process of change.
Yes.
Right there. And without that, the two go hand in hand. You can't really change anything unless you're paying attention to your environment as well. So it's really important to do.
Yeah, totally. And so the get organized is basically that, where like get organized is, okay, what does this thing do in my life? Do I really need this? And if not, like, because when we're hanging on to things, or like you and your husband in your house in New Orleans, just putting it in a basement, it's postponed decisions. Postponed decisions is mental clutter. You might not consciously know, but your subconscious know that the whole basement is full of unmade decisions, because you have not really made the decision, because you didn't make the decision to keep it, because it's in the basement, you don't want to see it, so you didn't make the decision to keep it. It's just there, and you didn't make the decision to let it go. So it's in this transition thing that is it's clutter, it's unmade decisions. So, and it's interesting, like not to put you on a spot, but it's interesting that something like that also happens to you from Feng Shui, where like what effects it has being there. And that just shows that we're all human. And that's what I'm saying. We're all having clutter, and we're all having our own little monsters that we have to be aware of and keep at bay.
Yeah, I mean, I know this stuff, I live this stuff, I work with it all the time, and I still wasn't aware really of what was happening by keeping all of those things. It just made sense to me. I've done this course, I have the materials, and I store it there.
Let's put it down there.
Never looked at it again, but I'm doing this course now, I've got these materials, let me put it there. And that was in the days too. Well, I suppose it still happens, when it's almost like when you took a course or a program, the people presenting it, there was more perceived value if they gave you lots more materials. Yes.
The thicker the binder, the better.
Binders, yes, and CDs and DVDs and all these things. And those things are actually hard to throw away, because even when I did get that urge to purge and I was really going at it, the DVDs I had and the CDs, I did look at them twice. And because there was like a little voice in me saying, you can't throw that away. And I thought, yeah, I can. And so I did get rid of it all. I was not going to listen to those things again. No. I really wasn't. So
no, because it was relevant once in the past, and now you're in a different spot, and it's the same. It's sometimes the same with things in our life, like physical things, like in a household. You're not living the same way you used to live when you were 20, because we're evolving, and sometimes we don't even have the same friends like when we were 20. It's all evolving, and it's not bad. It's just we're evolving. And so it had its time, it had its glory, but now we need to let it go. Nature does it the same. Like now is spring, everything is it's almost like nature is now collecting, and everything is blooming, and we are having an abundance, and it's crazy, and stuff is popping out. And in fall, she lets it all go, and it all disappears, and it becomes fertilizer. And I always look at, like, especially courses. I think courses and books you read and all that is like fertilizer inside of you. It did something to you. You embodied it. You have the essence still in you. That doesn't mean you have to keep the physical proof of it on the outside, You really
well, that's another thing I used to have a hard time getting rid of, and that is books. And again, what helped me very much with that is having to move so many times. You move all those boxes of books and it gets really old, and I had, I think, 3 big, tall bookshelves, all these bookshelves, and those used to be full. I now have 1, and it's not even full. So just over time, and now I know that if I'm going to buy a book, if I really feel I need to buy the book, because I'll get books from the library if I want to to learn something or, you know, read them. But if it's one that I really want to buy, then I'll say to myself, okay, what book am I going to let go of then?
Yeah.
And
One in, one out.
yeah, and recipe books was another thing, because I
Yeah.
like to cook and all that.
Yeah, and then you maybe keep it for that one recipe that is in there, and all the others you're not interested in anyways. And then you have a whole bookshelf full of recipe books, and in each one you have one recipe that you're maybe interested in.
Yeah. So I think the point, I think what's really coming across in what we're sharing here is that even when you know how things affect you and you know what to do and how to do it, you're still going to have challenges. You know, there are always going to be things, but it's, I think, having a mindset of a willingness to look at, how is this affecting me? Is this still current for me? What can I let go of to make my life easier? And it is self-love, it is self-care to say, I'm only going to surround myself with things that are current to me, that are relevant for me, that are useful to me, and that have value to me now, not things that used to have value to me. And I know it's hard sometimes to let go of things that meant so much to you in the past, but if it doesn't mean the same thing now, you don't need it. You know, do yourself a favor and let it go so that you can be your best self now. Not, you know, because it really does. It's amazing how those things hold you back energetically. It's really hard to move forward when you've got all of this stuff weighing you down. It truly is.
Yeah. Yeah. And just, I want to say something too about, like, a lot of people have problems with papers, and the higher value of papers is then books. So it's also papers, it's also considered papers. And a lot of people have trouble letting go of books. And they almost feel like it's sacrilegious to let go of a book, you know. And I wouldn't look at it this way. It's like with anything, it had meaning to you, and you can now give it away. If you give it to a library, sometimes I read the other day was it in Turkey? I think it was in Turkey, where garbage man had all these books, found them in the garbage or in the recycling, and they created a library. So you always find somebody who wants it, who is intrigued or is at the spot where you were when you were intrigued with this book, and they need this information. By you holding on, you're kind of like, maybe the book is out, how do you say that, out of print, they can't get it anymore. So you're actually doing a favor other people, and for you it's something that has no place in your life anymore. Used to, but not
that's right. And you know, unless you're going to refer back to something, and you refer back to, I have a handful of books that I do refer to regularly, and so those are, you know, those are current, and I will keep those. But if I've had something and I don't look at it, I don't read it, or I've read it and I don't need to go back to it, it's going to go. Because like you said, somebody else can get value from it now, and that feels good too, when you know that you can pass something on to someone else who's going to appreciate it and get value out of it. So why would you hold on to it and have it affecting you in a really negative way when somebody else can get value from it?
Yeah, exactly. So did we want to quickly talk about our webinars that are coming up, where we talk even more in depth about all these aspects, Linda?
Yeah, because Wednesday and Thursday we're going to do a free webinar. We did this before at the end of last year, and by popular demand we're doing it again, because what we're going to be covering is what we've been talking about here, but really it's about, okay, so what do you do now? You know, okay, you know this, you might know it, but what do you do with it? You know, how can you take control? And that's what it's called. It's called Regain Clarity, Confidence, and Control. Because when you have all this stuff around you, you certainly don't have clarity. Like, even I didn't have clarity until I did the purging. You know, so how do you regain that? So that's what we're going to go a bit more in depth in that on Wednesday and Thursday.
Yeah, Wednesday, what is that, April 7th, and Thursday, April 8th. And I have put the link already and some more words about that into, whether it's below or above, into the description box. If anybody has any questions, they can post them below, or they can reach out directly to me or directly to Linda. It's going to be not just a webinar where you just sit here and listen to Connie and Linda babble just like now, but actually we have a little bit of a workbook, and we're going to go and have some tasks for you to do so that you are part of it. And I always feel like action, if we do something, it goes into us, the knowledge goes into us better too. So yeah, so it would be awesome to see as many people as possible.
It will help to give you some clarity right there on the call, not just by what we're teaching you, but something in the workbook you're gonna do yourself, which will bring some new awareness, some new clarity to you, and help you see and understand exactly what we've been talking about here today.
Yeah, for yourself and for your own life even.
You get to
that's how we have it set up.
You get to understand what's going on with your energy, what exactly is happening. So so
any last words of wisdom, Linda?
Words of wisdom. I think if you feel in any way, when I was a feng shui consultant, and people would contact me and say they wanted a feng shui consultation, and so I would ask them before I went there, a little bit about why they wanted me to go and what was going on in their life. And I knew that whenever they said, well, I just feel so overwhelmed, or I feel very scattered, or just things, feel out of control, or, things like that, I would know before I even went there what I was going to find. I was going to find disorganization. I was going to find that they were holding on to things. And every single time that was it, so this overwhelm, this frustration, this anxiety had a direct connection to what their environment looked like. So the two really go hand in hand. So that's a good reason why you'll want to come. And we're doing 2 days, so we cover as many time zones as we can.
Time zones as possible. And I just want to say again, if you don't take anything else from what we were just talking about, but one thing, then take out, make life easier for yourself. Being organized is self-love. Decluttering is self-love. You're making life easier for yourself.
I love that. Yes.
Okay. Awesome talking with you as always, Linda.
I look forward to our webinar next week, and hope some people can join us. All right.
Okay. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.